The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology amphitheater fell into hushed anticipation as Instructor Velthar's manipulator appendages hovered over the cage release mechanism. 300 students from 47 species leaned forward in their seats, compound eyes glinting, sensory organs twitching with curiosity and no small amount of fear. "Today," Velthar announced, his chitinous plates clicking with barely suppressed excitement, "you will witness the apex predator response protocol. These are Carthian shadow cubs. Juveniles, yes, but already possessing the full hunting instinct of their species." A ripple of alarm spread through the lecture hall. The Carthians were legendary. Their adults could tear through reinforced hull plating. Their cubs, though smaller, were no less vicious when threatened. Even restrained by neural dampeners, they represented genuine danger. Dr. Lyra sat in the third row, her human features calm as still water. She had stopped taking notes several minutes ago, instead watching the instructor with that peculiar intensity her classmates had learned to recognize. Around her, students shifted nervously, the reptilian esrith coiling tighter, the gas-form luminari dimming their bioluminescence in instinctive fear response. "The neural dampeners are set to 60%, Velthar continued, his voice carrying a hint of academic sadism that professors across the galaxy seemed to universally possess. Enough to prevent lethal force, but not enough to suppress their predatory drive. When I release them, they will select the weakest target in this room by scent, electromagnetic signature, and movement pattern. Standard protocol is to remain absolutely still and allow security drones to—" He never finished the sentence. The cage door irised open, and 3 shadows exploded into the lecture hall. Terran led the charge. The largest of the 3 cubs moved like liquid darkness, his 6-limbed form impossibly fast for something that massed nearly 40 kilograms. His littermates flanked him in perfect hunting formation, their collective snarl resonating at frequencies that triggered primal fear responses in 17 different species simultaneously. The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Students scrambled backward, emergency barriers began deploying too slowly, and security drones dropped from their ceiling mounts. But the cubs were faster than any automated response. Terran's sensory array locked onto a target, a small Pimbari exchange student in the front row, frozen in terror, her crystalline structure beginning to fracture under stress. The cub's trajectory was perfect, his killing strike already calculated, his claws extended, refracting the harsh lecture hall lights into rainbow edges of death. Then Dr. Lyra stood up. She didn't shout. She didn't run. She simply raised her right hand palm outward, fingers spread in a gesture that should have meant nothing to an alien predator operating on pure instinct. Terran froze mid-leap. His body hung suspended 3 meters from the Pimbari student, every muscle locked, his snarl dying in his throat. His littermates skidded to impossible halts on either side, their momentum arrested as if they'd struck an invisible wall. All 3 cubs remained motionless, their multiple eyes fixed not on their prey but on the human woman. In the third row, the silence that followed was more profound than the earlier. Chaos Velthar's translator struggled to process his shocked chittering. That's impossible. The neural dampeners don't create paralysis. They're moving on pure instinct. Nothing should... They're not paralyzed, Dr. Lyra said quietly, her hand still raised. They're waiting. She walked forward slowly, deliberately, her footfalls measured and calm. Every eye in the amphitheater tracked her movement. The security drones hovered uselessly, their protocols unable to compute what they were witnessing. Terran's head swiveled to follow her approach. His snarl had transformed into something else, not submission but recognition. His combat stance shifted fractionally, no longer oriented toward prey but toward something his instincts identified as dominant. Dr. Lyra reached the frozen cub and did something that caused half the lecture hall to gasp in horror. She lowered her hand and placed it directly on Terran's head, between his primary sensory organs. The cub didn't strike. Instead, after a heartbeat of tension, he lowered his body fractionally, a gesture that Carthian behavioral specialists would later identify as profound respect bordering on pack acknowledgement. "Humans," Lyra said, her voice carrying clearly in the shocked silence, "evolved alongside apex predators for millions of years. We didn't survive by being the fastest or the strongest. We survived by understanding them." She looked up at Velthar, her expression neutral but her meaning clear. Every predator species has the same basic language, body language, energy projection, absolute confidence. We learned to speak it fluently because we had to. She turned to address the broader amphitheater, her hand still resting on Terran's head. Your species developed in environments where you either were the apex predators or successfully avoided them. Humans had to live beside them, compete with them, eventually domesticate them. We didn't just survive predators, we made them our companions. Terran made a low sound, something between a purr and a growl. His littermates had moved closer to Lyra, their aggressive postures completely dissolved. Velthar finally found his voice. This will require extensive documentation. The behavioral implications alone are already understood by anyone who's studied Earth's history, Lyra interrupted gently. She lowered her hand and Terran immediately responded, moving to her side rather than away. We walked with wolves and made them dogs. We shared territory with great cats and learned their language. We respected them enough to understand them, and that respect became communication. She began walking back toward her seat, and the 3 Carthian cubs followed her like a trained unit, their killing instinct completely subordinated to something, older and more fundamental, pack hierarchy recognized. Across species boundaries, the Academy brings together the galaxy's species to learn from each other. Lyra continued, settling back into her seat. The cubs arranged themselves around her in a protective formation that made the security drones recalibrate their threat assessments. Perhaps it's time the curriculum included lessons from species that earned their place not through isolation from predators, but through understanding them. Terran rested his head near her feet, his fierce eyes now calm, watching the room with an alertness that suggested protection rather than predation. Velthar's plates clicked in what might have been respect or might have been professional reassessment of everything he'd assumed about human psychology. Class dismissed, he said faintly. I have several reports to file. As the other students filed out, giving Lyra and her unexpected companions a wide berth, whispers spread through the halls of the Galactic Academy. The story would be told and retold, each version more embellished than the last. But the core truth remained simple and profound. The human had raised her hand, and the predators had recognized something in that gesture that transcended species, planet, or evolution. They had recognized authority, earned through understanding rather than force, the kind of dominance that didn't demand submission, but instead commanded respect, the kind that could only come from a species that had spent its entire existence learning the language of tooth and claw, not by becoming predators themselves, but by becoming something perhaps more remarkable, their teachers.